To be a really effective development economist requires you to have a very solid technical grounding in economics, to be an economist first. But that in itself is never going to be sufficient, because what we see on the ground could mean a whole range of different economics is the right framework to apply. And therefore you have to understand what's happening on the ground with a high degree of subtlety. And there are two complementary strategies for doing this. The first is to understand what's happening in the field, in a particular setting, in a particular organization, to a very high degree of granularity, to know how people tick, how the politics is working between different individuals, to see how culture and norms are bubbling up through the different communities. And that allows you to select what is actually the right economic model to understand the behavior. What's the game that's going on? What are the multiple games that are actually going on? And to do that requires you to really have an ability to pass one particular set of activities and say, actually, you know what I think is happening here is that information is not flowing as freely as maybe you'd imagine. I don't think people do know what each other are actually doing. It may be something else. And really that granular understanding is only got by spending deep time with every facet of the setting you're interested in. I'm passionate about government institutions and government organizations. I like nothing better than to walk the halls, have lunch with, and think about how public servants are interacting. What is it that managers are saying? What's the reputational concerns of particular individuals, and how are those shaped by others? Really trying to understand, in this setting, what is it that signals that you are committed to that particular organization or the particular norms of that public service? You can only do that by really understanding that context. But a secondary strategy is to try to understand these themes across many settings and start to see some stylized features that many organizations seem to get close to. And that doesn't mean that you take an individual setting and then impose it on another, but it allows you to start to know what to look for in a particular setting. And those are very complementary. So if you can have a great depth of understanding in a particular setting and then try to search your knowledge of other contexts where you've seen similar things, it'll tell you, well, actually, maybe that the norm, again, going back to my example of public administration, about how wages are set, is nothing to do with public revelations of what people are paid. And it's all about whether people think, actually, those payments are not so much what you actually get, but they are signals of your value. And so people start to interpret wages much more about value. Other people simply see them as what you get paid. And so, what I've hoped to do is to really have a balance between these two. In any setting that I'm working in, try to get a real depth of understanding of how economics bridges to that particular setting. But in the other hand, also try to work across a number of settings and start to see sort of stylized facts of public service in some ways. That's often the power of economics. Economics really requires you to understand what's the specific economics for that setting. But because we have stylized models, knowing many settings is also useful.